There's lots of hype surrounding this forthcoming documentary from Harry and Meghan. In fact, if you look at it, Netflix have described it as a global event. I think that's pushing it a bit, don't you? I think I call a global event something like our late monarch's state funeral. That was literally billions of people around the world all tuning in to pay their respects, honour and remember a wonderful lady who'd given so much service for 70 years. So it's hard to imagine that you could put this in the same sort of sphere as a global event. But of course, they've got to try and sell the product. But as more and more things leak out about this particular documentary, reality show, whatever you want to call it, it does become rather amusing, as I said it would. Because you see, well, they've put out this arty trailer, which is supposed to be dramatic, you know, have us all at the edge of our seats, with Meghan crying at every opportunity, all the while in that very expensive cash blanket. You know, you kind of think, wow, who could afford one of those? The wiping away the tear in the limousine, no schlepping for her on the back of the bus. Absolutely not. What's she crying for? You know, this is the thing that you kind of think, this is going to be unintentionally very funny. We described it recently on a TV show across America as being a little bit like John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Well, I think that's a little bit cruel, in fact, because Yoko Ono at least knew when to zip it, you know. The only time people remained silent during Yoko was when she burst into song, but I'll leave that there. It's interesting now to note, though, that as they push along, we're finding out people that didn't want to be associated with this particular documentary series. Now it's emerged, and as ever, we have to say allegedly, that quite a few people were approached to speak about memories of Harry and Meghan's wedding. That's right. Do you remember those people that they invited, but nobody knew exactly why they'd been invited? You do. George and Amal Clooney. They openly admitted they'd never met the couple, but they thought it would be a fabulous day out. And so it was. But then, of course, you had stalwarts like the supreme footballer David Beckham and his designer fashion wife Victoria, two very nice people. They'd of course known both couples, William and Harry, and of course Catherine and Meghan, albeit very briefly. But of course they'd become part of the royal firm. They'd been, well, you know, part of William and Harry's growing up, particularly Victoria, when they were invited by Princess Diana to Kensington Palace. So it's interesting to note that even David Beckham, according to a very good source, alongside Victoria, couldn't find the time in their busy schedule to be interviewed on camera to sort of reminisce about what a spectacular day their wedding was. Now, you could read this two ways, in fact, because according to that good source, simply they didn't want to do anything to offend Prince William, His Royal Highness, should I say, the Prince of Wales, and of course, Catherine, Princess of Wales, rightly so. And as we've seen recently, he was lucky enough to attend that wonderful event, Earthshot, out in Boston. So one would suggest, of course, that they've decided exactly where their allegiances lie. For Harry and Meghan, it must have been very difficult, and maybe even something of an eye-opener, to find that people weren't as forthcoming, helpful, welcoming as they perhaps first thought. And now what they've got to do is make it as dramatic as possible. Hence the reason you're seeing these dramatic cuts, Meghan crying, and then Prince Harry saying, I'm doing everything I can to protect my family. All the meanwhile making sure he's raking in enough cash from Netflix and that forthcoming book deal. But it seems for now, even David Beckham and his beautiful wife Victoria certainly didn't want to score a goal in the court of Harry and Meghan. As ever, when I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.